morning we will be having a few speakers speaking on Raise Up's 3 campaigns. The Fair Share Amendment, $15 minimum wage, and the paid family and medical leave. Raise Up Massachusetts is a powerful statewide coalition that has had a significant impact on the lives of working people in Massachusetts. In the past 5 years, we've won earned sick time for 1 million workers and an increase in the minimum wage from $8 to $11 an hour. And that gave a raise to 500,000 workers. So these campaigns have helped combat the extreme level of income inequality that we have in Massachusetts and have given our workers better wages and benefits. But we still have a lot more work to do. Raise Up Massachusetts is leading a labor movement that includes all workers of Massachusetts, and we're here today to not only show our support for that movement, but also let our legislators know that it's time to take action on passing paid family and medical leave legislation that is inclusive to all workers of Massachusetts. Raise Up consists of 3 pillars: community, labor, and faith-based groups. And today we have some wonderful women that are representing and helping me and represent those 3 pillars.
I am here representing more than 5,000 PCAs and additional healthcare workers and 40,000 working people from across different sectors in the workforce in southeastern Massachusetts. And I'm here to talk about the fight for 15 today. Our 15 minimum wage legislation would increase the minimum wage $1 a year until 2021. Eliminate the sub-minimum wage for tip workers and include indexing so that minimum wage is adjusted each year at the same rate as the cost of living. I have to tell you, as an organizer, I'm on the doors almost every single day. And the workers that I talk to are the working poor, struggling to survive. I met a lady the other day in New Bedford. When she moved into her apartment, it was $700 a month. That rent has gone up $50 a year. That same rent today is $2,000 a month. There is no way that she can pay that on a full-time PCA job. So as we all know, the cost of housing, food, oil, medical expenses have continued to rise, but folks' wages haven't kept up. A full-time worker in Massachusetts earning the current minimum wage of $11 an hour would only make $22,800 a year. The same minimum wage earner would have to work 94 hours a week in order to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. That is not the American dream.
I'm 18 years old, and I currently attend Bristol Community College full-time and work a part-time job. From a young age, I had to be mature and responsible enough to help my mother, because it's always been just her and I. My mother has always been a hard worker, currently working 50 hours a week and simultaneously attending school to get her degree. Despite her hard work and dedication, she has always struggled financially to trying to support us on her own and give me the life that she never had. When I became old enough to help out, I did. When I turned 15, I got the opportunity to start making money by cleaning houses and start helping my mother in any way that I could. I have been working ever since, and today I have a part-time job working at a restaurant, and I still clean houses whenever I'm free and to make a little bit extra money. I'm not only working because I'm trying to build a resume or have some extra cash. I'm working out of the necessity to survive. If I wasn't working, we wouldn't be able to afford to put food on the table on a weekly basis. If I wasn't working, I wouldn't be able to pay my own bills. If I wasn't working, I wouldn't be able to afford to pay my college fees and my expensive college books. At the end of it all, I have nothing left over for myself, and I find myself, as well as my mother, in this constant cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. I realize that no matter how hard I work, or how much backbreaking work I do, I will never be able to survive or get anything from working minimum wage jobs. Luckily, I'm blessed to be able to live with my mother where we support each other. But if I had to be on my own, I know that I wouldn't be able to survive on this income. I know that there are many teens and college students out there who are doing it on their own without the support from their parents. This is why I support a $15 minimum wage for everyone.
I believe when I was born, I was given a life template. But I also believe and know that not every woman was as fortunate as I was. But today, I am you. I am a very hard-working mom. I want to be productive and contribute to the economy of my city. And I also need to think about the daily bread for my children. I have created a daily prayer. My family cannot get sick. My children cannot get sick. I cannot get sick. If I or anyone in my family gets sick and I have to miss work, that means that I might not be able to put food on the table. For a day, only for a day, put yourself on my shoes and feel my pain. And if you hear my voice, I have more to offer than just the pain. I have compassion and solidarity towards my fellow brothers and sisters. We all get sick or have family emergencies. So it is a must. We need to have paid family and medical leave that would provide up to 16 weeks of family leave and up to 26 weeks of medical leave. It would include job-protected leave and 90% wage replacement of the workers' average weekly wages. Our goal with the legislature is that no working person should have to choose between the job they need and caring for the family they love. We must have paid family and medical leave policy that covers all workers. I am asking you to take action in passing family medical leave paid. You can help alleviate my agony. And I know for sure that you will sleep much better.
I know firsthand that paid family and medical leave can be the difference between financial hardship and instability or safety and security when life's emergencies arise. In 2015, I was married, and my husband, Jorge, was in a car accident that left him temporarily unable to work. The accident wasn't his fault, and we assumed his medical bills and time off from work would be covered by the other driver's insurance. But because he was one of the 1.2 million workers in our state without paid leave, that was not the case. He went from having a good job here in New Bedford to unemployed after his unpaid federal leave ran out. I struggled to support us on one income, and I couldn't take unpaid time off from my own job to drive him to his many medical appointments. The worst part is his employer would have safeguarded his job had he only worked at one of their agencies across the state line in Rhode Island. But because he worked in New Bedford, he was out of luck, just because our state has yet to protect workers like Rhode Island. That's why I'm asking you to join me in supporting paid leave. Every worker deserves time to recover from a serious injury, care for an ill family member, or bond with a new baby without the threat of termination or financial hardship. Paid leave makes sense for workers and for companies. It actually reduces costs for employers, and I think you'll agree that our hardworking families deserve protection.
I am a minimum wage worker. I'm educated with certifications in education and healthcare, where I also made minimum wage. I'm a single mother, and I live below the poverty line. I work full-time. I have always had a strong work ethic and have never wanted anything for free. I believe in working hard and earning your keep, and I do that, yet still seem to be living in financial quicksand. I don't want fancy things. I want to be able to support my children and occasionally give them nice things, maybe go out to eat or a weekend trip. You'd think with how hard and long I work, it wouldn't be a problem, but yet I still hardly make enough to pay my bills of necessity. I work downtown. I often walk by the small businesses and wish I could walk in to buy something to support them, but it's impossible. Living feels impossible. We should be a society that wants to help the working class. Having a decent minimum wage isn't a handout. It's people like me, hardworking single mothers, working families. It's giving us a chance to breathe, to help the economy, to give a small dose of hope that we might swim instead of constantly drowning. Now, aside from minimum wage, the Paid Family Medical Leave Act is something that's close to my heart. I haven't written anything down about it, so I will just say, in August of 2013, I had my son. His name is Jameson, and I was working in education, early childhood education at the time. I'd never been so in love when I had him. And due to unforeseen circumstances, I ended up alone with him and my, at the time, 5-year-old daughter. I didn't know what to do. I still had bills. So when he was 3 weeks old, I had to go back to work. I worked in a daycare, so every day I was cuddling and squeezing other people's children while my newborn was being hugged by someone else that was not me. In research, it shows that children need to bond with the mother, and it's imperative to their cognitive development. So even if people feel like I put myself in this situation, we shouldn't be punishing the innocent children that were born. They should have a chance to stay with their mother. And paid family medical leave would give a chance to these children and to their mothers to be able to bond, to stay with each other. And it's really important. And we're the only country, you know, in the developed world that doesn't feel that their citizens deserve something like this. So I really hope, you know, we can consider helping each other. Thank you.
It's important for us to hear these stories so that we know how people in our communities are personally affected. These issues impact so many people in our communities. Many people are struggling to get by. They're living paycheck to paycheck, making hard decisions on whether to pay rent or to put food on the table, whether to buy their medicine or pay their bills, whether to take care of a sick loved one or to keep the job that they need to pay their bills. Small business employees, people who just started a new job, independent contractors, teenagers, college students, along with everyone else, can all be victims of these tough decisions. The struggle isn't selective to who it makes a victim out of, so our legislation should not be selective. So today, I want to give you, our legislators, the opportunity to answer the following question. Do you support a $15 minimum wage and paid family and medical leave legislation? And will you ensure that both legislations will be inclusive to all workers and that no one is left behind?
My first job was a minimum wage job, $1.65 an hour. Now, I'm telling you how old I am, right? The last time we raised minimum wage, the lead sponsor of the bill in the House was myself, okay? And on the Senate side, was Senator Pacheco. Today, that's law. That's law today, right? We raised it all the way to $11, so you know where I stand. Do I have to say any more on that? Now, paid family leave. Paid family leave, the first piece of legislation to be introduced in Massachusetts to give paid family leave to workers in this state, it was myself that I filed it in 2005, 2006 legislative session. Okay? Again, during the present legislative session, there are 3 bills, a Senate bill and 2 House bills. One of those bills is my bill that I've been filing since 2005, 2006. In 2014, during the gubernatorial election of 2014, then Treasurer Grossman and candidate for the Democratic nomination testified before the committee in support of paid family leave. You know how many pieces of legislation was before that committee for paid family leave? And he supported publicly paid family leave was 1 piece of legislation. And that was my legislation that I've been filing since 2005, 2006. So you know where I stand on that, right? Do I have to tell you anything else?
They say that history doesn't repeat itself, but you could make a good case that the times that we live in could be likened to the times of the 1920s, just before the Great Depression, and you can make an equally good case that it's sort of like the Gilded Age of the late 19th century, sort of like a second Gilded Age. I say that because what we're faced with are the problems that people that lived in those times faced with. Great income inequality. It's a race to the bottom with corporate executives trying to squeeze as much as they can from their companies, to the point where they're jettisoning pension programs and they're even shirking responsibilities for paid health care. It's disgraceful. Social Security was meant to go and augment a person's private pension program and personal savings. People can't afford to do that now. So I support the proposal to increase the minimum wage. I support it rather strongly. On paid family leave, on many of those sessions that Representative Cabral filed his bill, I co-sponsored it with him. I did because I like very much the Rhode Island proposal, which has buy-in from employers and employees. So I'll stand in support of these 2 proposals, and hopefully the legislature will be able to take it up, and that'd be one less ballot question we have to deal with. I would like to close by saying that as much as you're proactive on these 2 proposals, to be on guard for another ballot proposal that would cut the sales tax. That would be devastating, and we don't know what's going to happen with the Fair Share Amendment. But the sales tax proposal would be a real big step backwards.
The community that is Massachusetts has led the nation when it comes to issues like raising the minimum wage. And you are here because we must continue to move the minimum wage upward. We've heard ample testimony. We all believe that in our hearts. We are here, your elected delegation, and you are here because we believe that we do need paid family time off. The testimony that we've heard gives us ample justification for that. And I just want to verify, to mirror what my colleague Representative Kazera said. Please keep in mind that we must stop, as part of what we're doing, because this is a package of issues, we must stop the movement to cut the sales tax. That cut will undo decades of work that we have put into funding early education, seniors, all the things that we care about. That cut will bring that back to where we were years ago.
I guess I'm here to be sort of the wet blanket, and I really feel that I have to be absolutely honest, that we need to negotiate in order to keep those pieces off of the those other two pieces on the sales tax off of the ballot. So you ask if I can buy into the whole thing. In my heart of hearts, absolutely. But in the reality of what my position is, as a member of the leadership team, I understand that compromise is necessary. So my position is, I want 2 off and 2 things to be done without being put on the ballot, and that is increasing the minimum wage and getting us paid family leave. And it may take a phasing in, and it may take not the purest form that we're looking at, but it is very important to me that we get them done.
My district is among the poorest in the Commonwealth. I say it is the poorest in the Commonwealth. I represent the south end of Fall River. And there are so many folks there, so many who I see every day who have similar stories to those that we heard earlier. And they're stories that do bring tears to your eyes. I'm right on South Main Street so that they can come in, and they do. And not just for some of the issues that we're mentioning here, but because all of that, all of the lack of resources, all of that lack of the ability to get a job, and perhaps it's because of an immigration issue, or perhaps it's because of just pure minimum wage or multiple children in the home. So many people are suffering. But those 2 issues that Representative Haddad just spoke of, if we reduce the sales tax, if that should happen, we have all heard of 9C cuts. Well, you have not seen 9C cuts like you will see, because there won't be the resources there to provide all those services for those programs like Citizens for Citizens, and I can just name them all, that do things to help those people in the communities right now. All those food banks, all those programs that are gaining little bits of the pie to serve those people who have such a need. So we're there all in on increasing the minimum wage and paid family medical leave.
We hear you, and we really are here to thank you, because if you don't tell us what's important, how do we do our jobs? And so we come across people every day that say to us, I want a complaint, an issue, a criticism, and we say, well, we need you to come together and make that story. Tell us your stories and your case, and we'll bring it forward. And some people don't know how to do it. And so you are a perfect example of what is needed and how you do it.
I just want to remind all of us that we're here today because we want to get paid family and medical leave and a $15 minimum wage legislation that includes all workers with no carve-out. So I hope that you can stand with us in ensuring that all workers of Massachusetts will receive the $15 minimum wage and paid family and medical leave. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having us. Thank you.
A little bit about us. We are a 10-year-old coalition of progressive business leaders who have this crazy idea that social responsibility and sustainable economic growth go hand in hand. My running joke is that if we ever have a softball team, the back of the t-shirt is going to say that you can make a buck and not be a jerk about it. And we are very, very proud to be members of the Raise Up Steering Committee and to have played a role with our colleagues at Raise Up in the 2014 minimum wage increase and in passing earned sick time in Massachusetts. And we're even more proud to be working hard on the 3 legislative priorities of the Fair Share Amendment, of raising the minimum wage again. And I'm spending a whole heck of a lot of time with Deb Fastino sitting at the table negotiating as a business voice in support of paid family and medical leave to reach a compromise that will pass. And if that doesn't happen, we'll be with you at the ballot. So I just want to be clear, we are a business organization that thinks it is reasonable for the most fortunate among us to pay a little bit more so that money can be invested to lift all of us up through education and transportation. And we think that policies that are good for workers are good for business and are good for the economy. So yeah, we can clap for that. So you heard from so many legislators about the danger that we may all face if the sales tax is reduced. I am here to also be a bit of a wet blanket and to let you know about another danger we're facing at the national level. Despite all of the progress we are making here in Massachusetts and stand to make even more, there's a threat at the national level, a bill that is both dangerous and misleading. And at the Alliance for Business Leadership, we don't do federal policy, but we do speak out when Massachusetts businesses and workers are under attack. There is a bill right now, it's known as the Work Flex Act, and it purports to offer workplace flexibility and worker flexibility, but it is deceptive. And I want you to know about 3 very frightening things that this bill does. First, business participation is voluntary. It is not mandatory, it is voluntary. That's bad for workers and it's bad for business. Obvious why it's bad for workers, right? If your employer opts out, you could be completely up the river and left out in terms of paid leave if you were to have an event that required you to take time off. But it's bad for business because it eliminates a level playing field. In this competitive economic environment, no employer or business wants to be out there on an unlevel playing field with their competitors. So taking that piece of the puzzle away is not just bad for workers, it is bad for companies. Second, paid days off each year would only be guaranteed with an employer okay. And there are no designated sick days. It would all be lumped in together. And 6 federal holidays would count against those days. So that day you take off for the 4th of July counts against your paid time off. I know. And employers can deny you the right to access these days if they believe that time off is, quote, disruptive to the operations of their business. Need I say more? And third, and really the reason that I'm here today, is that under this law, state law would not matter. We would roll back all of the progress that we've made here in Massachusetts and that we stand to gain if we pass paid family and medical leave. States could not set their own labor standards. So in Massachusetts today, businesses know that when employees show up at work, they are healthy and focused because you all have access to earned sick time. And that circumstance will only improve with access to paid family and medical leave. And starting this year, Massachusetts has an even increased competitive advantage with other states because we'll start to implement equal pay. If states aren't able to adopt their own labor standards, Massachusetts, which now has a competitive advantage and an incredibly tight economic market where the battle to retain and attract top talent up and down the economic spectrum is so fierce, our competitive advantage on earned sick time and the competitive advantage our businesses stand to gain on paid family and medical leave, where, as we already heard, we're at a disadvantage with states like Rhode Island, New York, California, we would lose that if this bill passes. So I ask you, as you talk to your state legislators, also think about having a conversation with your federal legislators about the dangers we face from this bill and the progress we have made here in Massachusetts potentially being rolled back. I know that workers can't afford it and Massachusetts businesses can't afford it.
What Jesse just shared, it shows us that there's still a lot of work that we need to do, not only in our state, but also on the national level. So we need to stand strong together and keep doing the work that we're doing.
Fair share is also known as the millionaire's tax. It is a proposal that would amend our state constitution to create an additional 4% tax on income that is over $1 million. If passed, this amendment would generate an estimated $2 billion dedicated solely to the needs that we have in public transportation and public education. The fair share is appropriately named. For many years, the highest income earners in Massachusetts have actually paid a smaller share of income in state and local taxes than the rest of the population. This additional money would be a game changer for cities like Fall River and New Bedford. Why? An educated population with access to better paying jobs would result in an improved quality of life and a boost to our economy. There is no doubt our families need reliable, safe transportation to get to work and to school. And in education, the foundation budget does not reflect actual costs, especially in areas like special education. Talk to any educator, in any gateway city, and they will tell you that we cannot meet the needs of many of our children given our current resources. And those same kids, those are the families that need the higher minimum wage and the paid medical leave. And those same students graduate often to find that higher education is out of their reach. But despite the potential fair share holds, there is opposition. Certain groups have filed a lawsuit claiming fair share is unconstitutional. We are hopeful that the courts will rule soon and rule in our favor, and that the issue will be left to the voters on the ballot. In the meantime, I ask that you support this very fair and effective way to expand opportunities for all residents of Massachusetts.
Throughout my school years, I, like many kids, dreamt of attending college and bettering myself through public higher education. Upon graduation, I was immediately confronted by the harsh realities of trying to realize this dream. At the time, my parents were both laid off from their jobs. Before I knew it, I found myself working 3 jobs to help support my parents and younger sisters. Even public institutions, which previously seemed accessible for me, were out of reach as I shifted my priorities from growing myself to surviving. As the years went by, I became further and further removed from my education, but the flame fueling my desire to learn never once faded or even flickered. One day I decided that it was time for me to take charge and own my future and continue my education. Through public higher education at Bristol Community College, I was able to leverage my hard work and unwavering drive into some really amazing opportunities. Through sheer grit, determination, and a little bit of luck, I made it through those terrifying months and graduated BCC last year. I had done it. I had achieved what was seemingly impossible only a few short months ago. Almost 2 years ago now, had developed blood clots in my lungs and was hospitalized for a week. It was extremely unexpected. I was a full-time student. At the time, I had 4 jobs, and I'm a single mom. I have a 13-year-old child. And it was a terrifying time for me, and I'm just tying in the Paid Family Medical Leave Act into this briefly, because I couldn't work for 3 months. It was pretty bad. I couldn't walk more than a couple of feet without being out of breath. I couldn't talk or eat without being out of breath. And it was a pretty scary time. And because I couldn't work, I wasn't making any money. I was almost evicted from my apartment. I had almost no food in my home. My electric was shut off. I had to have somebody help me help turn my electric back on. And had Paid Family Medical Leave Act been in effect at that time, I wouldn't have had to worry so much. It was definitely a period in my life that was a pretty low turning point for me. And to work so many jobs and to be a full-time student and be succeeding, and then suddenly just crash and burn like that, it was horrible. And it was hard to get back on track, but I did, and I graduated. So I had achieved what was seemingly impossible only a few short months ago. I knew I had to keep going, so I applied to another public institution, UMass Dartmouth, where I was accepted. However, as I began prepping for the start of classes, that self-doubt had once again reared its ugly head and caused me to question whether or not I was on the right track. Was this what I really wanted, to take on a seemingly insurmountable debt that I'm not sure that I can ever pay back, with no guarantee of a job that will come close to helping me pay it off? This, coupled with the fact I would have to work 3 jobs, with very few days off, all while taking care of my child and attending classes, was intimidating enough that it convinced me to defer my enrollment at UMass, once again putting my hopes and dreams on hold. I'm not the only one. I'm one of many. We put our education on hold consistently because the thought of working harder than what we already are and paying more than we may ever have is too much to bear and, frankly, just not possible. We are put on hold and barred from our dreams of becoming who we really want to be. Not because we do not have the drive, passion, or motivation, but because we simply can't bear to be burdened down by any more of society's debt than what we already work hard every day of our lives to pay off and survive. Now more than ever, we need you to take a stand and support the Fair Share Amendment and invest in high-quality, affordable public education for all. Student loan debt has plagued this country for far too long. College students are no longer leaving school and buying homes, cars, or even having children out of utter fear that they cannot afford it.
When I think about student debt, I think about that game, the Sims game, they used to play on the computer. Sometimes, I think now it's on PlayStation, where you see the people walking around and they got little bubbles over their head and you can see what they're saying or what they're doing. Can you imagine if we had that with student debt? Everybody in this room right now, if you had a little bubble over your head with student debt walking around, I can only imagine just how much student debt is in this room. It's a crisis at this point. Let's end student debt. Let's get out and vote for the Fair Share Amendment. And to do that, we need boots on the ground. We need everyone in this room, when you're in the doctor's office, when you're on the bus, when you're on the train, when you're in the grocery store, to talk about the Fair Share Amendment, to explain to people, because people still don't understand what Fair Share Amendment is and what it entails. And we need to get this passed. And we need our legislators on board. I've already been at the State House last week. I've got a meeting with them next month. And I'm on them, but we all need to be on them. It's everyone's responsibility. Thank you.
Public transportation is extremely important in low-income communities. I live in Fall River, and most buses in my town stop around 5 p.m., except for 4 routes. Lack of quality public transportation limits the opportunities of those who depend on it. This serves as a barrier to better jobs opportunities and going to college. It has us shelling out money we don't have to take cabs, because despite the bus schedule, we still have to go to work, we still have to go to school, we still have to go to doctor's appointments and buy food. The issue of public transportation is one that I'm deeply affected by. I grew up in poverty in Fall River. My family used public transit because we couldn't afford a car. Our lives had to be scheduled around the bus schedule, and sometimes that just didn't fit. I always worked from the age of 10 and all the way out through high school and part of college. I worked as a nanny. I went to college for human service / social work, and the nanny work had dried up due to a bad economy. I wanted to get my bachelor's degree, but I couldn't, because the only college in Massachusetts that has the program was Bridgewater State University. I couldn't go because there was no buses that went there. I started to look for a job so I could save up to buy a car. However, I couldn't find any work in my area, and I couldn't search further abroad because I didn't have adequate transportation. It was like a vicious cycle. I needed a job to save up for a car, but I needed a car to get a job. And my story is not unique. This is a struggle a lot of bus riders face. Passing the Fair Share Amendment would generate the funds that we so desperately need to invest into our public transportation system. Investing in our transportation system means lifting up the people all around the state who can't afford to buy a car and allowing them to seek better opportunities that will improve their lives.
So we've heard a lot this morning about the fight for 15. Many of us in this room worked to get the minimum wage up to $11 an hour. Now we're fighting to get it up to 15, and it's great, and we're going to do it. But you know what? If you're not lucky enough to belong to a union and you're working for a lousy employer, it doesn't matter what you make if they're stiffing you out of your wages. So wage theft is a very important issue, and there is legislation pending up at the State House right now. If you've got a pen on you or a pencil, House Bill 1033/Senate Bill 999 is the legislation up at the State House. Please call your state representative and your state senator and ask them to support the legislation stopping wage theft. Thank you.
Everyone, is this what democracy looks like? Keep going. Tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Tell me what democracy looks like. Tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Thank you all for being here today and for your attendance in this crucial and important event.